We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. We are recording this on a Sunday night, but you're hearing this on Monday. We're starting off another week. A lot of shit been going on. It's going to get crazier this week. I can easily say that because every week it gets crazier and weirder and sometimes scarier. Every fucking week. That's what it is. Um, I have no guests. I'm not doing a live. It's just me. It's a Sunday night, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what should I do? I could do another live. I could call somebody up and say, hey, do you want to do the show with me? Most of the time they reach out to me, so I kind of wait for that. So I'm sitting here at about 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, and I said, fuck, I can do this myself. I used to always do it myself. It's not my favorite thing, but I can do it. So we'll spend the next hour talking about some things. I do have some help here, though. You might remember that I put out a phone number where people can text questions and comments. We used to do it with email, but then it got real hard to keep track of all the emails because I get buried with emails from all the different news sources. So I got one of those apps that give you a phone number and an option to text. And that number is 952-522-1399. 952-522-1399. Now, I will say this. I will mention this again at the end of the show so that you can write it down if you didn't get it this time. One thing I need to say about it, I've been getting a lot of nice text, a lot of great text, but I'm getting people fucking calling me on that number. You can do it through the internet and make people making calls. Now, I'm not sure if these are people that are just scam callers that get the number some way, or if people who want to comment decide they want to talk to me and call in person. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to answer the phone. I barely answer the phone on my regular line. Text me what you want to talk about and we'll go that route. But don't bother calling because I'm not going to answer it. I don't like sitting on the phone for a long time. I spend a lot of time talking here and on TikToks, and I don't want to sit and chat for whatever. Even my wife knows when she calls me, make it quick. Let's just get moving. So please send in your text, your questions, your comments, whatever your opinions. I'm open to that. Don't call though. It's not going to work. Anyway, I wanted to go through some of these texts because I've got 6 or 7 of them, and I'd rather stay on top of it than get caught behind here. So we will go through them. Um, let's see here. I have often wondered if the real powers that run things have to handle Trump delicately because one, he's batshit crazy, and two, he knows too much of all of them. Like once you become president, you have access to damning information. Um, you're insinuating that there's somebody that's over him that controls everything, and that's distinctly possible. I think what you're saying is true, though, in terms of the Congress. I've often said that there's one group of people that could stop all this ridiculousness, all this crime and corruption very quickly, and those are the Republican members of the House of Representatives and the Senate. They could shut Donald Trump down. They could deny him things. They could impeach him if they wanted to, but they've chosen not to. So when this is all said and done, and you're looking for somebody to blame, it's Republicans in Congress. Those are the motherfuckers that need to be accused. But what you're saying about why they don't, because he's batshit crazy and because he might have something on them, I think that's distinctly possible. I mean, that's what Donald Trump has done most of his career. It's all about gaslighting and blackmailing. That's something he's always done. His best buddy, Jeffrey Epstein, made a career out of blackmailing people, and he's often said that Donald Trump was his mentor. So, yeah, I think that's distinctly possible. And I think the people in Congress are the ones the most fearful. This is what Donald Trump has done. He's pretty much ruled by fear. And as long as people are afraid of him, then he'll be successful. And the Republicans have been pretty good at bending the knee and being fearful and being afraid of Donald Trump. So, yeah, I think there is something to that. Whether he has something on them or not, I don't know. But the one thing he did hold over their heads is primaries. I'm going to primary you. Now, there's no doubt a lot of weird shit going on with members of Congress, and maybe he does have some dirt on them. I would presume he does. But they should be concerned because if they don't take him down, Donald Trump will ultimately take himself down. And when he's on the way down, it's pretty typical for a narcissist to bring everybody with them. So you may, even if you've been very obedient to Donald Trump, you're still probably going to get taken down if Donald Trump goes down some other route. So I agree with you. I think you're right. Um, and I think there's nothing they can really do to avoid it. It's all in motion now. Donald Trump is not going to last. He is going to fail. He's going to end up in a heap of steaming shit, and he will drag everybody he can down with him. All right. Next one says, Mike, first, thank you very much for all you do. Would you consider making this information well known to all of your listeners? The person who ordered the second strike of the two survivors killed in the recent Caribbean boat strike was Admiral Frank M. Mitch Bradley. He is a murderer, just like the boss, Hegseth. The public needs to know this. It is totally beyond belief. And that's something that just came out earlier tonight. And I'd said this before, Pete Hegseth was the one that was said to have given the order. Um, and clearly there's some crime there, maybe international, maybe federally. There is a crime committed there for what he did. Some people want to call it a war crime. There is no war, so it's not technically a war crime. But regardless of what you call it, it is in fact murder. Now, this Mitch Bradley, this Admiral Mitch Bradley, Donald Trump ended up firing a lot of the brass in the military, and this guy is a hardcore Trump humping piece of shit. So he is absolutely culpable. And you know who else is culpable? Because who they ordered to do this, to kill those two surviving people on the boat, was SEAL Team 6. So you got SEAL Team 6 went out, finished the job. So now you got a couple of problems here. If we know what happened was illegal, we are going to go after Pete Hegseth for crimes. The people who took the orders technically committed crimes too, Mitch Bradley and those members of SEAL Team 6. So one of the things that you're probably going to see is you're going to see SEAL Team 6 and Mitch Bradley to get a little hinky and end up testifying against Pete Hegseth. You also have to understand what went on too. When the idea first came out that they were going to bomb these boats, they took it to the JAG officers, and the JAG officers all said, "Yeah, no, that's that's criminal. You can't do that." So then Pete Hegseth skipped over the JAG officers, went to Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi says, "Cool, whatever you want to do." So the people who are culpable in this situation, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, SEAL Team 6, and this Mitch Bradley. So keep that in mind as we go forward with this, because this one isn't going away. This has Republicans pissed off as much as Democrats. And there's going to be a pretty intensive investigation. And if they get these people to testify, it's going to get ugly real quick, really quick. All right, let's see what else we got next. Hodiner says, just got back from Orlando, met up with a work friend. He is a kind and smart man. I've seen many examples of him helping folks from all backgrounds. However, he gets different news. He doesn't particularly like Trump, but he sees events through different lenses. In short, he is a barometer that shows me the country has ways to go before we decide to rid ourselves of Trump. Yeah, the thing about it is I think some people are under the impression that we're going to take all these people, eradicate them, and they'll be gone forever. These people have always been around. It's a matter of what culture will accept. And for many years, it seemed as though, at least to white people, that racism and misogyny and anti Semitism has gone away. And it never really did. The same amount of people felt the same way, but they were all under the rocks. They didn't feel comfortable coming out and spewing the venom that they spew. Up until the time Donald Trump comes out and says, oh, it's cool to be racist. It's cool to be misogynistic. We will never get rid of them. The only thing we can do is put enough pressure on them where they don't feel comfortable coming out and talking the shit they talk. Eradication can only come through years and generations of teaching people different. The problem is we've got a lot of shitty parents out there that will teach their kids the shitty things that their parents taught them. So I think the idea of getting rid of these people to better the country is kind of a lot to ask. I think the only thing we can do is kind of keep them under the rocks and hope they stay there, and hope we're not dumb enough to allow somebody in the position of power to let them out again. All right. Next one says, hello, Mike. My name is Carlos Alvarez. I always listen to your podcast. I'm a boomer. I was born in 1962 in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is considered U.S. territory, so everyone born in Puerto Rico is considered a U.S. citizen. I live in Austin, Texas. I am what you would call a blue dot. I always vote Democrat, but I consider myself an independent. I am what you would call progressive. I always listen to your podcast. Your podcast is the first thing I listen to in the morning. I wish you well, to you and your family. Well, thank you, Carlos. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's amazing how many dumb fucks don't know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. First and foremost, Donald fucking Trump. He doesn't realize that people in Puerto Rico are U.S. citizens. And Republicans who follow Donald Trump, well, they aren't too much smarter. All they see is, oh, there's a brown person, must be an illegal. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Carlos, thank you for listening and being a dedicated listener. I appreciate that immensely. All right, next one says, the main reason America got to be the most advanced is that we embrace change. Where in other boardrooms they said it could not be done. In America, somebody walking in and said, it's done. Why? Because we brought the best of the world to this beautiful melting pot, and we embrace change. Now MAGA assholes want to take us back, burning coal while giving solar, wind, and electric car tech to China. Yeah, you know, it's true that we have a lot of people who want to regress. You know, when we look at Project 2025, we hear Donald Trump talking about Sharia law if we get the Muslims in this country. And you know what's funny? Sharia law isn't that far off of Project 2025. It has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with us regressing, but it also has to do with making women second-class citizens, subservient to men. It's not a good idea. Some of the smartest people we have in this country are women. Some of the strongest leaders we have in this country are women. And regardless of what Project 2025 says, they're full of shit. And that may be one of the reasons why they're doing this. You know, they're very worried about white people becoming the minority. I'm not worried about that. They're worried about women taking more power from old white men. I'll tell you this right now, old white men are fucking dying, so let them die, and let's progress with this country the way it's supposed to progress. When you have a democracy, you have to be represented equally. The idea that we have Congress with more white people than brown people doesn't make sense, given that there's large communities of Puerto Ricans, Hispanic, African American and stuff. We do need that diversity as much as Donald Trump and the Republicans thinks DEI is a bad thing. It's not, and it's never done any damage to this country. Other people will maybe disagree with me about this, but the fact of the matter is it's been very helpful. And the thing is, with DEI, it's not just people of color. It's women in general, because we spent many years in this country where women were considered second-class citizens, so that DEI protection is important for them and important for women red states and blue states, but dumb fucks just don't get it. They don't understand. All right. This one says, "Hi, Mike. I'm Dan from Indiana. I'm thinking the White House just needs to be replaced. We need a new modern House of the People with protections made so it can't be altered by any mad wannabe king, that we take the current house and preserve it just as it is, kind of like Graceland, as a constant reminder of how quick and how bad things can go if we weren't careful on who we elect." At first, that sounds crazy. I mean, when we're talking about history in this country, in the White House, it's been there. It hasn't been there since George Washington, but it's been there a long time. But maybe there is something to be said about that. Security reasons, both cyber and domestic terrorism and international terrorism. Maybe that's possible. Maybe you do build something that's bigger and different and can house more things. I got to tell you this though, Dan. We got bigger issues to worry about. Um, that's something you look at doing after we get all the other shit that's been fucked with straightened out. And we've got a lot of things that need to be straightened out. Um, I take your point. It's not a bad point. It's maybe valid. Maybe there's a good reason for it. At this point, we got to clean this motherfucker up before we decide to sell it or change it or build something new. We got to clean up our backyard, and we got a lot of cleaning to fucking do at this point. So, um, I think that would be a while down the road. I may not even be alive when they decide to do that. The one thing that I did hear that was kind of interesting, they're running into some roadblocks in building this ballroom that Donald Trump wanted. Apparently, some of the architects are disagreeing with Donald Trump about the size. They're thinking it's too big to actually accomplish. Donald Trump wants to be the biggest, best, brightest, goldest motherfucker in the world. But I'll remind you, you remember everybody talks about how Donald Trump bankrupted casinos in New Jersey. Remember how they say, "How the hell do you bankrupt a casino?" Well, I'll tell you how he bankrupted it. He went and built this casino, and of course, it had to be the biggest, the most expensive, and all these sorts of things. And people came to Donald Trump and they said, "Look, you can't build it this big. You can only expect this kind of money coming in on a daily basis, and it doesn't warrant spending this money on building the building. You got to keep it in line so that you can cover the costs and also make a profit." Donald Trump, of course, said, "I know better. I know better, and we're going to do it my way." Well, they did it his way, and they fucking went bankrupt in a casino. Um, I don't know that how much it might have had in terms of the operation of the casino, but he put too much money into building it and expanding it and decorating it, and it was just too big a nut to crack once they started bringing people into the casino. It never made any money. And that's while at the same time not paying everybody. I'm also hearing that about this ballroom. I think some people are a little surprised that they haven't gotten any money yet. You're surprised? Anybody who could read Wikipedia on Donald Trump could find out this motherfucker does not pay people. He comes to you and say, "Yeah, we'll pay you later. Just start building now." I got to tell you, if Donald Trump came to me with that, I would walk away so fucking quickly because I know I'm getting screwed in this case. But I'm president. I'm trustworthy. No, you're not. You're not fucking trustworthy. Anybody who gives Donald Trump credit of any kind, financial credit of any kind, is a dumb motherfucker. Absolutely. It's just absolutely stupid to do it. I won't be surprised if that ballroom never gets built, mainly because it's probably going to take a long time and Donald Trump isn't going to be around that long. And then when Donald Trump is no more and isn't part of the um, power grouping in Washington, D.C., people are going to either stop doing it or do something else with it or whatever. Once Donald Trump is gone, that whole ballroom thing will be forgotten and they'll have to figure something else out because they keep talking about all this money that they're going to get from donors. And either those donors have kicked in the money and Donald Trump just decided to pocket it, or the donors haven't given the money. Donald Trump does this a lot. He says, well, I got promises from this, and this, and then they never come true. Good example is China. Donald Trump screws up things for the farmers. China stops buying soybeans. So then Donald Trump says, well, I'll bail you out like I did first time. Never happened. He hasn't bailed anybody out. So then he goes on bended knee to China and tries to work out a deal to go around the tariffs that fucked it up in the first place. And he comes back screaming and yelling, oh my God, we've got China willing to buy 20 metric tons or 15 metric tons of soybeans, so we're saved. What he doesn't tell you is what they agreed upon or allegedly agreed upon was still less than what they bought the year before. And what he also doesn't tell you is there is no deal because there's nothing in writing. It's all rough ideas of what they might be able to do, but they would only do these under certain circumstances, political climate, the market, and all that stuff, how we're competing with other people that they're now going to get soybeans instead of the United States. You know how much soybeans China bought so far, and we're done with the year? Like 330,000 pounds. Not enough to save the farmers. So the farmers didn't get bailed out. They didn't get the soybean sales like Donald Trump promised, and they're fucked. And now we're going into winter, and they're going to have to try to figure out how to make it next year. And do you think Donald Trump's going to help them? I told you from the beginning. Donald Trump has nothing to gain from the farmers now. He doesn't need their votes. So he isn't going to help them. He doesn't give anybody anything unless he gets something in return. They should fucking know it by now. But if you didn't and you bet on Donald Trump, I have to say you almost get exactly what you fucking deserve at this point. It's unbelievable to me that people continue to believe and support Donald Trump. He he disappoints, he lies constantly, but people continue to trust him. And when you continue to trust him, you almost deserve what you get. You just fucking do. All right, let's go on to some stories. Sorry, I got a little scratchy throat here. I'm not used to talking constantly. Short bits at 2 minutes at a time, 3 minutes at a time. Or if I've got Will on, I'll only have to talk like every 12 minutes or 15 minutes. So this is a little weird for me to go constantly. Couple of pardons that Donald Trump is passing out pardons like fucking candy, and he's passing them out to the worst absolute people. First of all, um, he's really big on drug dealers. He's going out and bombing boats in international waters. He's locking down the border between Mexico because of all the drug traffickers. He's very concerned about drug traffickers. Yet just last week, he says he's going to pardon Juan Orlando Hernandez, who is the former president of Honduras, who is also one of the biggest drug dealers in history. And he's in jail, a federal prison in the United States of America. And Donald Trump is talking about pardoning him. Apparently, Donald Trump isn't really worried about drugs all that much. It's just noise that he thinks will work for him and benefit him somehow. But one of the reasons he's looking to pardon this guy is because somehow he wants to influence the election that's coming up in Honduras. He wants his buddy, not this guy. He's not running for president, but because he's in fucking jail. But whatever other Trump humping two-bit politician that's running in Honduras, he wants him to win, so he's trying to influence it somehow. But if you think Donald Trump is seriously worried about narcotics and drug dealers and drug trafficking, Didn't give a fuck about that any more than he cares about his cult members. But there's also another pardon that actually happened. Actually, he granted clemency to David Gentile. He is a private equity executive after he was convicted of defrauding thousands of victims in a $1.6 billion scheme. Not unlike Bernie Madoff, you know. Gentile, 59, was granted clemency just a few days into his 7-year prison sentence. That's what you have to understand. 7 years is what he got. He went into jail for about a week, and then Donald Trump gave him clemency. This guy got no accountability for stealing $1.6 billion from people. If I'm those people, I'm going to be a little angry with Donald Trump, I would think. He was released from prison on Wednesday, according to prison records. Gentile's conviction will not be erased. He still will have this conviction, but he's not in jail. So what the fuck? He's got billions of dollars and he's not in jail. Isn't like he needs to apply for a fucking job at this point. Gentile and his co-defendant Jeffrey Snyder were convicted in August of 2024 on conspiracy to commit securities fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and securities fraud. You get the trend here? This guy was a fraud to the nth degree. Donald Trump is a fraud to the nth degree. Birds of a feather, you know? So he let this guy out. Why do you think he let this guy out? Let's see. He has a lot of money. So he'll be okay once he gets out of prison, now that he is out of prison. But you don't think Donald Trump got paid under the table on this motherfucking thing? That's the only way this would have happened, if Donald Trump made some money. We know that Donald Trump was selling pardons for $2 million a pop. I bet you he got more than $2 million from this guy. And we'll never hear about where that money went because it will go under the table, go in Donald Trump's pocket, and once again, he will grift from his position as President of the United States. All right, next up, Senator Mark Kelly weighed in on President Donald Trump's escalating his immigration crackdown following the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. in the ambush attack. It's tied to an Afghan national, of course. Now, appearing Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press, host Kirsten Welker questioned what Kelly's thoughts were on Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem defending Trump's decision to permanently pause migration from all third world countries. He said, well, let me start by saying what happened to the 2 guardsmen, Andrew Wolf and Sarah Beckstrom, horrific. The Arizona senator said of the victims, and it shouldn't happen. And I'm praying for them and her family. It was a horrible, horrible thing. Now, we have to understand what happened here. And the fact is, we can't really understand what happened because we don't actually know. This whole thing is weird, like all the other things that happened while Donald Trump's been in office. An Afghan national flies from Washington State to Washington, D.C., has a handgun, walks up to 2 National Guard members, shoots them in the head. One is dead. He is injured too. I don't know if he was shot or what happened, but as far as I know, he's still alive. We should have a complete investigation into him. He should be interviewed, but I'll guarantee you we won't know shit about what happens to him. He will be forgotten about, just like the guy who shot Charlie Kirk and the guy that took a shot at Donald Trump. We will never hear again. There is no transparency in this administration, and there's a lot of weird shit surrounding it. As I've talked about before with this Afghan national, he was also somebody who worked in coordination with the CIA. He worked with the CIA when we were pulling people out of Afghanistan. He was on night raids. He's a dangerous guy. How is it that he comes to this country under Joe Biden, asks for asylum, doesn't get the asylum until after Donald Trump is in office, and then his administration is involved with approving that asylum? He was vetted. They're saying he wasn't vetted, but he had to be vetted if he got asylum, unless unless the Republicans and Donald Trump didn't do their fucking job, which is distinctly possible. But this is all a weird situation. And then Donald Trump comes out and says, well, I'm going to send 500 more troops to Washington, D.C. For what? They were fucking doing nothing in the first place. These two got shot walking down the street unarmed. They were unarmed. Secondly, a judge a week before had said that they were in D.C. illegally, that the National Guard was in D.C. illegally prior to this event. So, for all intents and purposes, these people should have been pulled out of D.C., but they weren't because Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about what's going on in the courts. So now we get this incident. You can look at it a lot of ways as a horrible, tragic incident coming out of nowhere, that a crazy man shot these two people. And that's distinctly possible. You know, that's a distinct possibility. Or it's some kind of organized event. We know that Donald Trump loves distractions. We know that Donald Trump wants to see more anger and violence on the streets. So he's trying to provoke that. We know he's trying to provoke it. Now, whether this situation was an attempt at provocation, we don't know that. I can't say that for sure. But unfortunately, in this world, in this day and age, with Donald Trump, we can't say for sure either way, no matter how crazy it sounds. It's distinctly something Donald Trump could fucking do. It just is. Now, the sad thing is, we've got this young woman, 20 years old. She died unnecessarily. The other gentleman that was shot, I don't know the extent of his injuries, and we may never know because nobody tells us fucking anything. Or the shooter either. We won't know much. I think, I wonder if Donald Trump and the Republicans are sad that they're not all dead. That would make everything easier to tie up in a nice fucking bow. But that's not what happened. So we'll have to see how this progresses. But what Donald Trump wanted to do didn't work. He isn't creating more violence in the streets. He's trying to bait people every time there's a protest or everything he ever does. The ICE agents going in and causing all kinds of havoc. He's trying to create violence in the streets. But I will say this, the people who are out there protesting and dealing with this situation, their restraint is pretty amazing. They're doing the right thing by not buying into the bait. And it's driving Donald Trump fucking nuts at this point. It absolutely is. Donald Trump is all, as I said, Donald Trump and Hegseth want to send 500 more troops into the country or into Washington, D.C. They also want to stop all immigration from third world countries, and they want to end all the processes with asylum um, seekers in this country, at least temporarily. Now, what's all of that going to do? It's nothing more than Donald Trump trying to make himself look tough and like he's doing something. But Donald Trump is too fucking stupid to actually do anything to stop something like this. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened at all. There's a creator on TikTok. He goes by the name of Won't Be Silent. We know him as Abe. He's been on the program several times. Abe is a great guy. I really thought of Abe as a good friend. I guess I still do. Um, like I say, Abe's been on the show. He's liberal minded. He lives out in Beverly Hills, California. I went out to California one time. My wife and my brother had coffee with him. Great guy. Love the guy. And I always appreciated what he said. We didn't always agree on everything, but mostly we had the same mindset. Now, it's been a long while since I've talked to Abe. We've been talking to a lot of other people, and I just haven't heard from him, and I haven't reached out to him to talk. But I've been coming across his TikToks lately, and it seems really fucking strange because it seems like he's an entirely different guy. Now, I will tell you this about Abe. He works in the entertainment industry. He is Jewish. Um, he is gay. None of that really fucking matters. I thought he was a great guy. He wrote a book. It was a cool book. I read the book. Um, but he's really taken a different tone on TikTok. really kind of negative toward liberals and really supporting Israel. Now, I understand that. I mean, he is Jewish. He's married to a guy that's from Israel. So he has his dog in the fight there. But he's become very militant about it. You know, Israel this, Israel that. The Palestinians are horrible. Um, and I just recently saw him doing something on a TikTok where he was talking about Tim Walz. Okay. And Tim Walz has done wonders as governor of the state of Minnesota. And I know this because I live in fucking Minnesota. There's all kinds of claims being made by Republicans about hiding money and all that stuff. And none of that has been proven. None of that is really true. But they will say anything to discredit somebody like Tim Walz. Well, I saw uh, Abe doing a TikTok and he was talking about Tim Walz and he was talking very negatively about him, apparently being sucked in by these bullshit reports that have no substance at all. And he said something. He said, "Boy, we dodged a bullet when we um, didn't have to deal with um, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris uh, and let them destroy our country." Really, Abe? We're lucky that we didn't get Tim Walz and Kamala Harris because we would have destroyed our country. So then, am I to believe that you're happy with the way it's turned out? That Donald Trump's destroyed the country, as opposed to maybe Kamala and Tim Walz, based on your opinion, might destroy the country? See, I don't understand where this is coming from. Is it all because of his Israeli background, um, or his Israeli ties? What is it? I would tell Abe this though. Um, if you're getting sucked into the Republican side of thing, it's a little fucking late. It's starting to take a nosedive. If that's where you're going to side with this, you're making a mistake, Abe. And I don't know what to say about it. It's just, it's fucking ridiculous. Um, Now the thing about it is somebody said, well, you should have him on to debate. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I have too many friends that are Trumplafucks that I have history with, that I have good memories and stories and things with. And instead of bringing them on or talking to them in my private life and getting in arguments and ruining all those bad memories, I just keep my distance from them. I prefer to maintain. I have a friend from high school who's one of my best friends, and he's a Trump bumper. I just don't talk to him now. I mean, we all have our lives. We have things to do. I have plenty of guests to come on, so I don't need to do that. I just don't understand how people can change so dramatically. And somebody asked me about that, and I said, well, it's one of two things. Something's going on in their life where they think differently now, or they're trying to flip the script for clout to get more viewers, more followers. Abe doesn't strike me as somebody who would do that, but who knows? Who knows? I can't explain the difference. Abe and I were good friends. We talked all the time. If you put him on the show right now, we would have a lot of problems and there would be an argument. That might be entertaining to listen to. I'm just not in the mood to fucking do that bullshit. And since we're speaking of that, we had an interesting turn in events with the corrupt motherfucker that runs Israel. I've often said that, you know, as much as I speak badly of Israel, I'm not talking about the country of Israel. I'm not talking about the people of Israel. I'm talking about the leadership of Israel. I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. And I understand the position the people in Israel are in because we're in the same position with Donald Trump as president. People of this country generally, for the most part, are good people, but we're being run by a criminal, just like Israel. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu would frequently tell us it's all a hoax, it's not true. But I beg to differ now on this story here. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday asked the country's president to grant him a pardon for corruption charges, seeking to end a long running trial that has bitterly divided the nation. Netanyahu has been at war against the country's legal system over the charges, said The request would help unify the country at a time of momentous changes in the region, but it immediately triggered denunciations from his opponents who said that it would weaken Israel's democratic institutions and send a dangerous message that he is above the rule of law. Well, why not? Donald Trump is. Now, in a statement Sunday, the Prime Minister's office said that Netanyahu had submitted a request for a pardon to the legal department of the Office of the President. The President's office called it an extraordinary request, carrying with it significant implications. Netanyahu is the only sitting prime minister in Israeli history to stand trial after being charged with fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes. In 3 separate cases accusing him of exchanging favors with wealthy political supporters, he has not yet been convicted of anything. And one of the reasons he has not been convicted of anything is because now he's the prime minister. It's very similar to what happened with Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the president. He was in the middle of prosecutions. He was convicted of felonies and such. And then he became president again against all odds. Same thing happened with Benjamin Netanyahu. He was the prime minister for a time. He was out and he was getting roughed up pretty good, legally speaking. And then he became prime minister. And much like it did in the United States, everything went on hold. And because everything's on hold, he has to maintain some status in this situation by continuing this war. Now, if they did give him the pardon, there might be more of a likelihood that this war with Hamas would end quicker, because then he wouldn't have to worry about going to jail. He may still have to be worried about being run out of his job, but at least he wouldn't have to go to jail. But I find it interesting that Benjamin Netanyahu claims innocence, and he's in the middle of a trial that's now on hold, that he wants a pardon. Why would you need a pardon if you're not culpable for the shit? Netanyahu's doing whatever he can to try to save himself, just like Donald Trump did. He knows that at some point this war is going to have to come to an end, and he wants to have some coverage if that happens. I'd be surprised if they gave him the pardon, but in this fucking world today, who the fuck knows? You don't know what they're going to fucking do. Now, this thing with Pete Hegseth. Donald Trump is a real big supporter of Pete Hegseth. He's a great guy. He's doing a great job. He loves Pete Hegseth. Well, until the going gets a little rough. Trump has now seemingly distanced himself from the latest controversy around Pete Hegseth. Self-styled Secretary of War reportedly ordered a second missile strike on 2 alleged smugglers who survived an attack on the boat. And that's what we were talking about earlier in the show. And that was his phrase of saying, kill them all. And that's a problem. That's illegal. And even Donald Trump and the people around him understand this is a problem and this is illegal, and Donald Trump wants to separate himself from it. Now, it'll be interesting if Pete Hegseth gets thrown under the bus, if in turn he throws Donald Trump under the bus. That could happen. The people who were involved, the Admiral and the SEAL Team 6 folks, they could get prosecuted too because they accepted an illegal order. You know, it's funny. They were all butthurt about these 6 people telling the military, you don't have to follow illegal orders. They didn't like that. You wondered, why would you try to do that when they were very specific about not following illegal orders? And then a week or so later, this comes out that some illegal orders were given, knowing this is going to fly in their face. And guess what? It fucking does. Donald Trump responded to this. I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it, Trump told reporters. But no, I wouldn't have wanted a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. And if there were 2 people around, but Pete said that didn't happen, I have great confidence. There's not a full sentence in that whole fucking thing. He was stumbling. He was fumbling around. And this is what Donald Trump does these days. He's not well. He's not thinking correctly. And when he gets cornered by these things, this is how he responds. I didn't know nothing about it. I thought you were the ultimate fucking king here. I thought you controlled everything. Pete Hegseth is a dumbass. If you're not overseeing what he's doing, then you're equally a dumbass. Now, speaking of dumbassery, President Donald Trump defended his remarks, calling Tim Walz seriously. I'm just going to say the R word. You know what I'm talking about. My wife hates it when anybody says it, and I'm not going to disrespect her. Seriously, R word on Sunday, insisting there was something wrong with the Minnesota governor. Now, during a Q&A with the president on Air Force One, a reporter asked, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive word, the R word. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz the R word? Again, we understand who Donald Trump here is. He'll never admit that he's wrong. He'll always double down, triple down, quadruple down. He'll always fucking do it. And this is how he answers. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him, Trump responded. Absolutely. Sure, you have a problem with it. You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people in a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia, we give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. What the hell did he just say there? And you're suggesting that Tim Walz gave billions of dollars to Somalis? No, he did not. It's not true. The state of Minnesota doesn't have billions of dollars to hand over to Somalia. For fuck's sake. I mean, this is the stupid shit. And he can't even respond with a coherent sentence here. He said something stupid. And instead of saying, whoops, it was a miscue. I shouldn't have said that. You're right. That's bad. I apologize. He could never, ever, would never, ever do that. So he's got to double down and triple down and say, yeah, there's something wrong with Tim Walz. I guarantee you right now, whatever the story is, he doesn't even know the story. Somebody in his little group said, oh, Walz did something stupid. It has to do with money and Somalians, and just go after him. And that's just what he does. Donald Trump is like a lot of the Trump-lafucks who are ill-informed, uninformed, and misinformed. They see a headline or some clickbait. That's all they read. They can't take the time or have the motivation to read any deeper or to fact check anything. They just take what they see and they run with it. That's what Donald Trump does. He fucking runs with it, and he always ends up looking stupid in the end. So he's not sorry for calling Tim Walz the R word. And why would he be? He's called people worse things than that, and he's never apologized. I don't even know why somebody would ask him to apologize because they know better than that. They know he wouldn't do that. This is just who Donald Trump is. He's a tactless hillbilly, essentially. No offense to hillbillies. We may have some hillbillies out there, and when I say that, yeah, I probably don't want to get in trouble with hillbillies, but you know I mean well with it, and at least I didn't say the R word. What I should say about Donald Trump is not hillbillies. I should say unsophisticated, tactless piece of shit. That's better. Hillbillies are better than that, except for the one hillbilly in D.C., which would be J.D. Vance. He's an acknowledged hillbilly, and if they're like him, then I don't like hillbillies. I know they're not all like that. All right, Senator Mark Kelly told CNN's Dana Bash that he wasn't sure where the Trump administration's threat of court-martial stood days after the Pentagon claimed it was investigating him. Mark Kelly was one of the 6 members of Congress that told the military not to follow unlawful orders. And now Donald Trump is upset and getting angry and going after them. But the easiest one he thinks to go after is Mark Kelly because he's a former military guy, a war hero, if you will, an astronaut. Um, they think that they can call him back up and have him court-martialed. It doesn't sound like Kelly's really all that worried about it. Kelly, a retired Navy captain, was one of 6 Democratic lawmakers who posted a video to social media reminding troops that they did not have to follow illegal orders. Trump absolutely raged, of course, that the Democrats were traitors who committed crimes punishable by death, while the Pentagon threatened to recall Kelly to active duty for court martial proceedings or administrative measures. Now, Kelly told Bash, I was notified about this through a tweet, the same tweet that you saw. And that demonstrates how unserious this administration is. They care more about the publicity than this process of law. I haven't been notified by the Navy. Kelly said he did receive something from the FBI. It had something about coming in for an interview. And the question here should be, why did the FBI decide to do this? Or do you think maybe the president told the FBI director to go after the 6 members of Congress? So more bullying and intimidation. Kelly added, but Dana, I'm not backing down. These guys don't scare me. They're not serious people. I mean, the President of the United States and Secretary of Defense, neither of them are serious people. And he's absolutely right about it. They are not serious people. They're not smart people. We see Pete Hegseth, who may go on trial for murder at some point, given his miscue with these boats. And if they're going to try to tell us Donald Trump had nothing to do with that, that's bullshit. Everything that Pete Hegseth does is at the behest of Donald Trump. Don't ever let him fool you. Donald Trump is in control of everything. He controls everything and everybody, and if it goes wrong, he's going to be in your shit. We've already seen it many times, and this will lead back to Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, not to mention the Admiral and the SEAL Team 6 folks. All right. An Afghan national was arrested in Texas for making terroristic threat on TikTok video this week, one day before another Afghan national shot 2 National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. Now, Fox News was the first outlet to report on Saturday that Mohammed Dawood Alakoze was arrested for saying he's building a bomb and intending to use it to harm citizens in the Fort Worth area. Alakoze was charged on the state level in making terroristic threats, court records showed. Fox News story from reporter Brooke Taylor and Greg Norman was based on sources from the Department of Homeland Security. Alakoze entered the U.S. in 2022 as part of the President Joe Biden's Operations Allies Welcome, which resettled about 85,000 Afghans in the U.S., the same program that brought the shooter in D.C., the 29-year-old suspect. Fox News reporter Christina Coleman on Saturday afternoon reported Alakoze was a lawful permanent resident of the U.S. ICE has launched a detainee on him following his arrest. President Donald Trump ordered a full-scale, rigorous re-examination of green card holders from 19 countries of concern on Thursday following the shooting of the 2 National Guard officers in D.C. Now, those countries include Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran, and Venezuela. Again, Donald Trump's great at trying to have ploys or strategies after a disaster has happened. Now, this gentleman didn't do anything other than make a threat. It's interesting that he would be an Afghan national as well, making the threat. But he is. And I think there are people from Afghanistan in this country that are terrified now. With the way Donald Trump does things, the way he does things, it puts all of them in danger. You'll remember that we had a period of time when people were going after Asian Americans. It would not surprise me if we see something similar with Afghan Afghani people. Now, the problem with that is it's hard to determine who's who. Are they Afghanistan, Pakistan? Where are they from? And does it matter to these fucking thugs that will be out there looking for these people? Probably not. So, once again, Donald Trump is encouraging and um, cultivating more violence in the streets because apparently that's what he wants. That's what he needs is violence in the streets. Now, as we're getting down toward the end here, we need to talk about healthcare in this country. A lot of problems with healthcare in this country, and for Republicans, it's crunch time on Obamacare. GOP leaders return to the Capitol this week, facing a year-end deadline on Affordable Care Act subsidies without a unified plan for how or even whether to extend expiring benefits for millions of Americans. There needs to be a vote on this in the Senate by December 19th. And then it has to be brought to the House. But at that point, Mike Johnson has to agree to bring it to the floor unless they find a workaround to Mike Johnson, which I guess they've already been working on at this point, a discharge petition, again, that would go around Mike Johnson to force the vote in the House of Representatives. So now it needs to pass the Senate, it needs to pass the House, and then it needs to be signed off by Donald Trump. And this all needs to happen before December 31st, because on January 1, that's when these price increases happen. And if that should happen, there'll be tens of millions of people without health care. There'll be millions of people that will be getting bills for their health care that they just cannot afford. So there'll be more people without health care. And you have to wonder what the Republicans are thinking about this. They act like they don't want to extend the subsidies on Obamacare or the ACA. But if they don't, they are going to get even more heat than they're already getting from their home states, their home districts. The ACA has more coverage in red states than it does blue states. So if they think they're hurting just the Democrats, they're misinformed. It's going to hurt their own people. Now, whether the Republicans give a fuck or not, whether or not they're hurting their own people, maybe they figure they lost the midterms already. What the fuck doesn't matter? I find that hard to believe, though. I would think they'd want to try to save themselves as much as they can. So, in my mind, I think at some point they are going to probably pass a 1 or maybe 2 year extension to the subsidies just to get that off their plate for the time being so they can focus on doing nothing again, which is what Congress is doing. The debate is pitting Republicans concerned with delivering on affordability ahead of the 2026 midterms against conservatives who have spent years bashing Obamacare as a government takeover of the U.S. Healthcare system. Centrist GOP lawmakers facing tough midterm races are fighting to keep the subsidies in place, while other Republicans think the enhanced tax credits approved by Democrats during COVID-19 pandemic should sunset on January 1 as scheduled. It's going to cost a lot of people a lot of money. There's no question about that. It's going to be disastrous for a lot of folks. Now, I think there's like 80% of the people in this country that support the ACA subsidies, but our representatives in the Republican side don't apparently care about that. There are a bunch of Republicans that want to extend the subsidies, and they're fighting for it. Whether it will get done or not, we don't know. Now, if it doesn't get done, it will be catastrophic for a lot of folks, and that is a sad thing. It's part and parcel to what Republicans are doing to people now anyway, so it wouldn't be surprising. The only thing positive that could come out of it, and it's not, and it's a crapshoot. This health care has been brought to the surface. Republicans and Democrats alike that have their pockets filled with money from the various lobbyists want to keep things as they are. They want the insurance companies and medical and the pharmaceutical companies to continue making ridiculous profits. They get paid off, so they make sure that happens for them. We've got universal health care in about every country that's even close to us, except us. The richest country in the world does not have universal health care. If this ends up being a disaster, a catastrophic situation, I have a feeling that when we come to 2028, or maybe before, probably 2028, assuming we have a Democratic president and Democrats controlling the House and the Senate, there's going to be more pressure and more taste for universal health care. It's ridiculous that we might have to wait 2 years to get there, but I think there is a possibility that people will be just so fed up. It got so far right and so far wrong that that people will just want to fix it, and the universal health care will be easier to sell. I don't know that for a fact. That's just my gut, given the circumstances and how things have gone in past history. We'll see. But this healthcare issue has to be figured out. Donald Trump's idea of just giving individuals a bunch of money so they can buy their own health care, fucking stupid. It's absolutely stupid. You give the people the money, some will decide to pay their bills. Some people will decide to just pocket the money. But those people that do buy health care, they're just giving it back to the insurance companies anyway. And they're causing the people to be weaker in terms of negotiations with those healthcare companies. When you've got a pile and millions of people going to healthcare, you can negotiate better deals. If you're an individual, you aren't going to be able to negotiate shit. You're going to get shitty prices and shitty coverage. So that concept is horrible. And that is the only concept that we've heard from the Republicans in 10 years. They always talk about better programs or better systems, but they never reveal it to us. Oh, we can't tell you now. We'll tell you later. Just you wait, though. That's what they love to say. Just you wait. We're going to give you the best coverage ever. Donald Trump told us that in the first term. We never saw a plan. He's telling that to us now, and we will never see a plan. And in the process, people will go without health care. People will die. And it's a matter of how many people in Congress actually give a shit. Democrats and Republicans alike. It's time to stop fucking around with this stuff. We need the universal health care. Don't tell me it doesn't work, because it works in every other fucking country. Don't tell me it doesn't work, because Medicare works. It can be done. The only reason it's not being done is there's a lot of big corporations and oligarchs that make a lot of money from the situation the way it is now, and they are paying off Democrats and Republicans to make sure it stays that way. These representatives that are supposed to represent us for the best results, to protect us, to serve us, they're doing just the opposite. They're serving the rich. And that's why I've said many times we need to eradicate the Republicans out of Congress completely. We really do. There isn't one good one of them. Some aren't as bad as others, but they've all been complicit with all the things that Donald Trump has done because they've supported him in fucking everything. But then we need to look hard at the Democrats. Some of those old establishment Democrats like Schumer, like Hakeem Jeffries, like Pelosi, like some other people. They're part of the reason we are still in this situation with healthcare. We need to find them, and we need to pressure them, and we need to push them out. They've already got the taste of money. They're not going to change their ways. So we need to fucking get rid of them. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.